Welcome back to another video on Python basics. Today, I'm going to look at variables and data types. So this is going to be our roadmap. I'll try my very best to always present that at the beginning of every video so that we can keep track as to where about are we and easily follow um, follow up. So let's jump straight to it. So what you see is my code running on my local machine. On the far right, I have my main file. And right here is where I'll be putting my code. And on the far left, I have a tab to run the code so that it can display the output somewhere beneath. So what are variables? So let's start by the different types of variable. In Python, you can use a hashtag to add a text. So basically Python ignore anything that is after the hashtag and consider that to be a comment. Ideally, what you want to do also is to have the triple quotes, enter, and then you can then do whatever you want in here. It will also be considered as something not to take seriously. So I'm going to stick with this one, the hashtag. So the first one we have is a string. So a string will be anything of this kind. So this already in itself is a string. If I put, for example, Johnny here, John, that's a string. I am African or something. Let's do that. African American. Or you are brilliant. Those are all considered string. Now that is one way of looking at everything, but we can also have an example, or let's just go through all the string, the variables type that we have. So after a string, we have your integers, integer, which is basically a whole number. A whole number would be anything between 1 and infinity without a dot at the end. So 1 will be a whole number, 400 will be a whole number, 550,000 will be a whole number, 1 million will be a whole number. You see? Or 1 trillion, is that a million? 100? 10 million, I think. 10 million? Yes, that's 10 million. Those are whole numbers. And then anything else with a dot in it. So that will be considered your float, which is your another type in Python. So 1.34 is a float. 58 point multiple digits after the dots. These are floats. A minus 50 plus 58 is a float. Something also that you need to notice about all numbers when it comes to integer. A negative number is also float. So as long as the whole number is negative, it's still considered a float. So negative just tells you on which side of the zero the number is. So what I mean by that is assuming that you have a zero something somewhere there. Anything that goes in this direction will be considered positive, right? And then anything going in the opposite direction of a zero will be considered to be a negative number, if that makes sense. So here you're gonna have a -3, then you have a -2, then you're gonna have a -1. So it just depends on which side of the zero you are. Either this is gonna be a float or 3.5, or it's gonna be a -3.5, 3.55. So doesn't really matter. These are still considered a float, and it's going to be a whole number, and that's basically what we mean. So I hope that makes sense. Then after the floats, we have your booleans. Booleans are simple ones because they only have two possibilities. Either going to be a true or it's going to be a false. So that is 0 and 1, basically. And in terms of example, let's look at examples, simple examples. So we have for a string, we're going to create the variables. Now, this is where it becomes interesting because we start talking about variables. We know the types and what makes a variable to be of a specific type versus another one. It all depends on the value that is being assigned. How you assign a value to a variable, you use an equal sign. So that's how you tell it that you are now equal to. Your content is defined by this value that I'm assigning to you. So let's say we have name is equal to John, like it's come up. So we've created a variable name, and this can be anything. It could be age, it could be family, it could be name capital, name, depending on your convention. But what you cannot have is something that has a dot, an hyphen, for example. But you can use an underscore, that's acceptable. You cannot have a quotes like this, that's gonna break, it's not gonna work. And you cannot have what else? Something of this. Also, that's not gonna work. Although it has its place, but we'll look into that in the near future. So that's also another way of defining or reinforcing the type if you want to. Let's say if I say name like I wanted, a semicolon, that will not give us an error because we actually think this name is going to be a type string and nothing else. But that's not the case for now. We're just going to start with basics and just stick to basics for now. So that I've assigned a value of a string. So how I know this is a string because of the inverted quote that I've used. It could be a single quote, double quote, and that value is assigned to this variable. And this variable basically can change. So if I go name in the next line and I assign the value of single quote Paul, and the value of the last value assigned to the variable is a value that will be displayed. I don't know if that makes sense. So let's run the code. That's Paul. We've assigned John initially, and now Paul is a value that's been displayed. What happened to John? That's because Python runs from top to bottom and process things as they come in. So a variable, like a word says varies, can vary. It can vary based on the value that's been assigned. So let's say now I comment this out and I rerun the code. What you see is John because the value of variable name was never changed along the way until we reach down to print name, and print name has a value of name. So that's what you need to remember. The code runs from top to bottom. Now, if we go to the next variable, an integer, let's say age is equal to 30. He's 30 years old. And we add the value of age inside here, comma separated, and we rerun our code, we get John 30. So John is of age 30 because that's the value. So if you repeat the same process like we did before and assign now the value of 32, you're going to be seeing the value of 32 because like we say, the code run from top to bottom and it has changed along the way. So that's a variable. And you can also assign a different value. Let's say we started with age being equal to 30. And now we decide to say age now is equal to 30. I hope I'm spelling, not thirsty, 30. 30. Okay, let's say 40 because I can spell that easily. 40. So let's say I come to that and I run the code one more time. You see 40 has been printed. It's a string. Yes, it's possible to start with a number, change to a value of 40, and output the value as a string. So what happened? Python automatically handle the changes behind the scene. You as a programmer, you need to think about that. Anticipate the changes depending on what scenario problem you're trying to resolve or something that you're trying to automate. So that's something to keep in mind when you're assigning variables, that sometimes you can have a set of variables that you have prepared in advance at the beginning of your code because it will be used, and only to find out at the bottom it's not there. So what I also mean is that when you're anticipating these, let's say we run this code, you can see already it's telling you that age is not defined. That's because we don't have a value. And the code is already saying, look, when I'm running this, I don't understand why you're asking me to print age if I don't even know what age is, because it doesn't exist. So that's something you need to remember when anticipating or writing your code. And part of it is also thinking as a programmer. It's a logical approach. So top to bottom, meaning there's step I follow, do this, do the checks, and at the bottom give me this result. That's part of your automation. You think for the machine and give the machine to do the task and hand over the result at the end of it. So now we're gonna move to the next one, which is going to be a salary is equal to, let's say, 5,000 US dollars. So 5,000.867 or 876. So that's how much is coming in. And we're going to say this is going to be in USD. I'm not sure what your currency is. It could be ZAR. Oh, it could be what? Euro? Yeah, let's use it. So we're looking at the salary, and the value of the salary is a float. Float because we have a comma after it. It could be negative, it could be positive, it doesn't really matter. So as long as it follows the format that any um, um, plot should have, or a value that should be assigned for integer is also passed in. So if I run the code, I have the negative numbers, and I can also remove those negative numbers, and I end up having exactly the value that I'm looking for. John is 30, is earning 4,876 US dollars, or ZAR, or Euro. So those are the three first types. Now we're looking at the other one, the Boolean. So we're gonna say is married. Is he married? Is married is equal to true. So we can add that in our list of things to print, and we say is married, and we can run that. John is 30 and 4,000 and is married. So those are the way to work around or implement your different types as well as variables. Variables names can have multiple shapes and form. You choose it depending on your context or readability, or how you want the variables to have some sort of a meaning. You can add them. Ideally, you want to use underscore and keep them as short as possible. Long ones tend to be a bit complicated and make things a little bit they can be, they are descriptive depending on your context, but can also be burdensome because now you have to write them. But thanks to the technology that we have nowadays, where there's a lot of autocomplete and stuff like that, it makes the work a bit easier. So those are your four main variable format or types. That is your string, your integer, your float, and your boolean. Now, these are used commonly as to create other different types that are not listed here. And it's usually either a combination of many types, as it could be a string and integer, or just one types to create another type. So that is what this video is all about today, where we look at the four types of integer, strings, four types of types. We have your strings, your integer, floats, and boolean. I hope you enjoy and learn something out of it. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.